Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Sacred Self-Worth interview series. I've got Mary Ayers with us today, and we're going to be talking about the importance of accepting ourselves, feeling connected to ourselves, and ways to really improve that. If you've been tuning in, this whole series is about how we can improve our health, our success levels, our relationships by really having a healthy foundational relationship to ourselves. So, Mary, if you want to just take it away and introduce yourself and let us know who you are, what you do.
Well, thanks so much for having me here. We share a little bit of the same history as my background is as a therapist, was a therapist for 30 years, but now I exclusively work within coaching. I coach people right now, taking knowledge and changing knowledge into action. And what's key is that the tool I use is EFT tapping, which is what we'll be talking more about. And what I really love most, I'll say this, is that the reason that I started adding that is because I love the mind-body connection with that to make the changes that we want to make.
Absolutely. I am all about the mind-body connection. I'm not sure if people tuning in know I'm a psychotherapist as well as a coach as well. And it's all about connecting into our bodies. You know, we feel things on a visceral level. We tend to be really stuck in our minds and in the thinking level, but you have to drop into the feeling and really move through emotions. And that's why I love personally EFT as well, is just the access that it gives to the emotion and the release of it just makes such a big difference. I think a lot of people get stuck in their heads and stuck in their experience, and this just really provides a really great flow of experience.
What I really love is that, and a lot of people don't realize this, but the conscious mind and the subconscious mind talk two different languages. And so all that great insight that we store every time we watch a TED talk, every time we listen to something like this, it's our conscious mind loves the heck out of it, fills it up, gets it excited. What we're really looking at is how do you translate what my mind knows, my conscious mind knows, into the subconscious, which is running all of the programs. And this particular, it's such a nice technique because it really brings that into that deeper level where change is happening. And I know that we're going to work on it today. We're going to talk more about it. So
Yes, and I'm excited to get into the experiential so people watching can actually try this out for themselves. I know I first learned EFT through an audio book, and it makes such a difference to see it, to experience it, because when you're reading about it or hearing it, it's just still, there's a little bit of a disconnect. So before we get into that, just real quick, what is your perspective on self-worth? What does self-worth mean to you and your clients that you typically tend to work with?
I love we all want to feel valued. And that's another way that we talk about it, right? We say, I feel valued, or I don't feel like I have enough value. That's how it usually shows up in our language, is that sense of what is my value. And a lot of what I talk about with my clients is, where do you think you're getting your value? What do you have it attached to?
Yeah.
And first of all, what I get when I ask that kind of a question is, first of all, is a very blank stare, because most of them don't even recognize that what they're using to measure their sense of worth. What is their value? And if you're using, depending on what it is you're using, you can really be setting yourself up for a fall all the time, and you don't even know it.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some real key areas that people, if they attach themselves to these external ways of feeling some value, is what really gets them, then it feels like my value, my self-worth comes and go. It ebbs and flows instead of being a steady, I always have it, I always know it. It's a knowing inside. It feels like, oh, this happened and that happened. This happened and that happened. The next thing you know, they're feeling like, they don't know how they're getting it. It just seems like something that happens to them, as opposed to being aware of where they're getting it from.
Yeah. What do you think are some downfalls that people tend to place value on? I know in my business, I work a lot with body image, eating disorders, a lot of women's issues, and it tends to be appearance based. Do you come across that, or what else?
Absolutely. That's probably, I think about 5-6 areas that I'll point out. And that is one, right, is our appearance, is that our attachment to how I'm looking and how good I get to feel. And it's conditionally based. When I feel this way, then I feel good. When I don't feel this way, I don't feel good. And that's always that fluctuating. It's not steady, which was what we really want.
Yeah.
So appearance is one. Achievements is another. What have I gotten accomplished? Who do we know? Can be one, too. What do we own? Our net worth. So all of these things that, people can really ask themselves, well, how would I know? How would I really know how I see myself? What has to happen in order for me to feel good? And really, that kind of a question will give you some answers. It will start to give you a little clue of what's happening on that more subconscious level by even asking yourself that question. One thing, I think an area that I see most often in the work that I do is that people feel their worth comes from what they accomplish, how much they do. And that gets real tied up with people being able to feel appreciated, right? I'm doing all this work and nobody's appreciating it.
Oh, yeah.
And so when they get kind of stuck a little bit into that, they can feel it depends on the outside. If somebody's giving me kudos, if I'm getting acknowledgement for what I do, if somebody says, you're a hard worker, they get to sit up like peacocks and feel really good. I feel really good about that. And if they feel that they're being overlooked, if they feel that, somebody isn't noticing how hard they're working, they feel that their colleagues aren't working as hard as they are, and yet they still get promoted and bonuses and stuff. These are little clues to people that they've attached their value to what it is they're doing instead of who they are. So I'm going to add something. I'm just going to go ahead and take a step forward and add something here, because when we talk about how do I really start to attach that to me, what does that look like? I mean, it's easy to say, right? It's a concept of, sure, I've got to appreciate myself, enjoy myself, like myself. But this is what we're talking about, that difference between this part of my body got that concept. Everything down here is gone. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't know what that feels like.
Yep.
And so one of the things that we want to do is also have an idea of what you want to feel like. We can know what we don't want to feel like, but we have to know what we want to feel like too. And sometimes that's a bigger hurdle.
Yeah.
It surprises people.
Yeah. And I think the main problem with a lot of people trying to figure out, like, how do I want to feel, is they don't believe that that's possible for them. It feels like such a far out concept of, well, I know I want to be happy. I want to feel more fulfilled. I want to feel confident, but they don't have the experience of feeling it. So it just feels like a concept. So that's another piece of EFT, is that it really connects the mind body to being in alignment with this way of being.
Yeah.
And as you were talking, it was funny because you were saying how a lot of people place their value on accomplishments, and it's kind of reversed, because the more value you feel innately, the more you will be able to accomplish. And so it's kind of backwards, like you can work, accomplish, and not feel that self-worth. But if you feel the self-worth, I think you'll end up just naturally being more successful in what you do and feeling fulfilled and not seeking that external validation.
And what we're really talking about is not needing the conditions to give you that positive feeling. Is that, can I just have that feeling and then I flow from that feeling?
Yeah.
Which again makes a lot of sense. I can't imagine any of your listeners, saying, I don't think that's true. I think they're all going, yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
How do I do that, though?
Exactly. Just jump right into how do we do that?
Perfect.
Okay.
So because a lot of these programs are on the subconscious level, they're things that we're doing, we don't even know we're doing it. And so I always look for kind of, how can I make the invisible visible, right? The subconscious, how can I make it visible? And there's one little giveaway. And one is, I find that a lot of us, I'm one of them, have a tendency to compare ourselves with others.
Yeah.
And if you stop to look at that and go, what am I comparing? What am I observing about them? It's actually a little window to what you're believing underneath. Because if I'm looking at them, and like you'd said, I'm looking at them and I'm saying, well, their body looks like this, and they probably exercise, and they probably eat right, and they probably never struggle with this. There's a good chance that what you're looking at is you're looking outside yourself for somebody who looks like they have what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And you're saying, I don't have this, they do.
Mm-hmm.
So same goes with, something that I will want to tap on, which is how much we do is we tend to look around and say to ourselves, look at how much somebody else is accomplishing. I'm not getting that much done. I don't see myself in that same light. So the way you compare yourself with other people, how much money they have, what kind of car they drive, what labels they're wearing, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Gives you a little bit of an insight to how you might be, or what you might be attaching yourself to.
And it seems like a lot of assumption also, because they might look a certain way or have a certain thing. And so we're assuming that they're happy or fulfilled or content, or, they have this amazing partner, so therefore life must be great. So I really think it's important to, like you said, witness it without adding assumption to it, without adding judgment or comparison, but just kind of witnessing and then relating to it purely from your own lens.
Yeah. And again, it's such something to observe when somebody is kind of like, well, I don't care. I don't care if their husband's cheating on them. Look at them.
Wow.
They can almost discard. Well, and I'm saying it because we can almost discard information that doesn't fit into what I believe. And so again, it's being able to hear yourself, observe, take a step back, notice that.
How do you do that if that's a foreign concept? Because, we speak very much the same language, but I imagine there might be some listeners who are like, well, how do you do that? How do you listen? How do you observe?
Yes. That is why, for me, that's one of the things that I love about the tapping, is because instead of trying to understand what my brain's doing, my body, which has now become the subconscious, is going to tell me by how it feels.
Cool.
And so if I stop to say, how do I feel? What am I feeling? When I'm observing that, okay, how am I feeling? And your feelings are going to give you more information than your head is going to give you.
I love that.
So I thought we would do some tapping. We wanted to do that. And I'm going to go ahead and use the example of somebody who feels that their value is based on how much they're doing.
Okay.
Because I know people make lists. I mean, this is the kind of client I get. They're always going, I have this list. I've got to get these things done. I need to do all of this to have a successful business, whatever it is. And they're always feeling I'm never getting enough done. And so what I'm going to ask the listeners to do is, if that is something that you feel, I can look at my list, I never feel like I'm getting enough done. And then at the end of the day, instead of feeling triumphant because I've got 20 checks, I'm looking at the 10 that still didn't get done.
Yeah.
So I know everybody has that experience, whether or not that's the one you're attached to, you can at least relate. I too have to figure that out. Now, just think about how you feel. Everybody, if you think about your list, you think about the number of things on it, notice what you're feeling, not so much the story, but how you're feeling. Okay. And if you play along with me, just as you did that, just give me a little idea of what maybe happened in your body a little bit. What did you notice kind of feeling when you started thinking about, all these things to do?
Overwhelm. Absolutely. Kind of a rising energy in the gut of like like kind of like the pit in the stomach feeling
Mhm.
of just like,
Mhm.
whoa, so much to do.
Yeah, yeah. And that's a very common way to feel about it, okay? Is that we just feel that tension. It can, come as an anxiety and whatnot, but the body is telling you there is a threat. The
Yes.
threat is how I see myself.
Yeah.
Okay? And
Yeah.
that's how you know. You don't have to know much more than this is how I feel.
Yeah.
One of the things we do is we ask people to rate it to a scale of 0 to 10, meaning how high is it, how intense, how tight, or is it? So just for the sake of being able to demonstrate, what number would you give that?
Um, like a 6 or 7.
Okay. And you can feel where that is in your body, okay? And for the sake of it, I'm just gonna have people go through this with me instead of telling where all the points is, so
Okay.
they can educate them. So one of the things we do is we start on the side of the hand and we tap on the side of the hand. Just gonna use the hand here. I like to cover the whole side of the hand because my husband's an acupuncturist, and so I get a
Oh,
little insider's information.
yeah.
There's a lot of points up here.
Ah,
And so I make sure that everybody's covering just like you're doing. Just
that's
like you're
useful. I've never been taught this way. I've always been taught just like this. So that's
doing.
really helpful. Yeah.
So what we do is we make a statement. Here's how I'm feeling, even though I feel overwhelmed.
So
Okay.
even though I feel overwhelmed,
And then we add usually a statement of self-acceptance. I'm willing to accept myself.
even though I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm willing to accept myself.
Even though I feel this overwhelm,
Even though I feel this overwhelm,
right there in the part of my body.
right in my gut.
Okay. And that's beautiful because you're defining it more for you, which is what you'd be doing. Okay.
Okay.
I'm willing to accept myself.
I'm willing to accept myself.
Even though I'm feeling this overwhelm,
Even though I'm feeling this overwhelm,
showing up right there in my gut,
showing up right there in my gut,
I'm going to accept myself now,
I'm going to accept myself now,
even with these feelings of overwhelm.
even with these feelings of overwhelm.
Now we're going to take those two fingers. We're
Okay.
going to go begin at the eyebrow and just follow along,
Can I
okay?
switch hands or does it matter?
As you go to your eyebrow,
Yeah. Can I use the
doesn't
same
matter.
hand that was being hit?
It's a bilateral system, so you can do both if you
Okay.
wanted to. So you
Okay.
can go back and forth. It's usually, I find that for me, most people, this is my dominant hand, and so
Okay.
I'm more likely to use it, but whatever's comfortable, okay? This overwhelmed feeling
This overwhelmed feeling
showing up in my stomach,
showing up in my stomach.
had so much to do.
Oh, I have so much to do.
So many things on that list.
So many things on that list.
And I feel the overwhelm.
And I feel the overwhelm.
So much to do.
So much to do.
And I don't know how I'm going to get it all done.
And I don't know how I'm going to get it all done.
And I have to get it all done.
I have to get it all done.
That's when it counts.
That's when it counts.
Then I can feel successful.
Then I can feel successful.
Then I can say I did it.
Then I can say I did it.
See,
See?
I'm successful now.
See, I'm successful now
When that list is done.
when that list is done.
And yet I wonder
And yet I wonder
if it's possible
if it's possible
for me to feel calm,
for me to feel calm,
easy,
easy,
just a little bit more,
just a little bit more,
even though I have that list.
even though I have that list.
Because what if
Because what if
I knew
I knew
that I mattered,
that I mattered
no matter what,
no matter what,
no matter how many lists there were,
no matter how many lists there were?
I matter.
I mattered.
I'm good at this.
I'm good at this.
I matter.
I matter.
I know that.
I know that.
I can find that solid place within me
I can find that solid place within me
where there's peace,
where there's peace.
and I know I matter,
And I know that I matter,
no matter what list there is.
no matter what list there is.
Now take a breath. Now I'm just playing. We just kind of moved around. We talk about the feeling that's there, and then I move it into a little bit of what feeling do I want to have. The test is check your stomach.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Think about your list. Okay. And feel what happens in your body.
it shows up differently now.
Mhm.
So it's not that like heaviness punch in the stomach. It's more, it's a little lighter and it's moved up a little bit in my body.
Mhm. Okay. So when you say it's moved up, is it tense up here? Is it just a little bit more open?
Um, Let me think. It feels opened. Yeah, an opening sense.
Yeah. I like to call it, sometimes I'll call it space. Like I feel like I have more space now. I have space to think. I have space to look at my list and think, sort through it and say, what do I want to do? And if I don't get it all done, can I be okay with that? What it does is it relaxes the body. The tapping, instead of being driven by that pushing of got to get it done, got to get it done, got to get it done, gives you a more neutral, open space to be able to look at it from a perspective that is not tied into my own value, whether I get it done.
Yeah.
So my looking at it changes, my relationship with it changes. And
Yeah.
I can bring that forward in action steps that feel good for the sake of doing things that feel good.
Yeah. It felt very validating also. Like it felt very connected of it's not dismissing the feeling. It's not like you shouldn't feel that. It's like, okay, feel it and just move it, you know? So it's I think that's the beauty of this is that you're not dismissing your experience or invalidating it or making it wrong. You're just saying like, okay, notice it and then watch it flow and move and change and hearing that I have value regardless of what's on my to-do list and I matter is just like you said, subconsciously, it's so important.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like to is and I like to point out to people, we get that we may have deeper issues about my value and where did I learn that? What experiences in my life taught me that? And the tapping works with that as well. This kind of tapping is going to help in that moment where I
Mm,
have to get things done and I'm feeling that tension and stress. Because if I can take myself out of the stress response right now without doing all the backlogged work of growing up,
yeah,
you know, then that makes a difference in my body. And, one of the things we're talking about is health, right? And
yeah,
overall well-being in life.
yeah,
It's not going to last forever because I did this one tapping about my list.
yeah,
But if I combine doing some tapping on the things as they present themselves and couple that with breaking some past beliefs and programming, when I couple them together, I'm doing the kind of work that helps to rebuild a new self-concept, one to which I'm putting in the programs instead of what I I adopted from my family,
yeah,
that I get to do it. And this is where, regardless of what they taught me, now I'm, realizing and beginning to piece together an identity of I matter no matter what.
yeah. So three questions just popped up as you were saying. I'll just say them and you can answer them in any order. First one is, are there more subtle ways of tapping? Because let's say you're having a really overwhelming experience in a public place and you don't want to go through all the points. Is there a shortcut? And then the other question is, how important is the script of what you're saying? Because you're an expert in this, so your script came very fluidly. Are there protocols that people can learn and teach themselves? Is it free flowing? Whatever comes to mind, you say. How does that work? And then I'll get to my third question after.
uh, First question. Oh God, remind me. All of a sudden, I was thinking about the second one.
Is there a more subtle way to?
Yes. Okay. What I tell people this is that, you can be at a meeting. I say, you know what? If I put my hand right here, I can press on this collarbone point,
Uh-huh.
right? I can rub it, I can hold it, I can like this. Nobody knows what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm not tapping,
Yeah.
but I am rubbing, I'm pressing acupressure.
Uh-huh.
This comes from, the meridian system. So I'm now acupressure. I can sit like this
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yep, I can sit like this.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah.
I can sit like this.
Yeah. I do this all the time anyways.
As natural, right?
Yeah.
So you don't have to hit all of the points, right? When people take the time to learn, this is some of that beginner stuff. If I've got to do it absolutely right and right by the book and stuff like
Yeah.
that, this will lead into your second question,
Yeah.
which is the question I often get, which is, I don't know what to say,
Yeah.
which is why I think what's more important is how do I feel?
Okay.
Okay. And so that's easier. When I'm saying to you, the harder part is that because I'm trying to figure out what you might be feeling. Okay. So really, your languaging about what it is you're feeling is more exact than mine. So if you were tapping and you were kind of saying, this feeling in my stomach feels like a pit in my stomach. It feels like, I'm falling out of an airplane. It feels like, whatever. You're going to use the right descriptors because you're in your body
Mm-hmm.
to be able to follow the feelings.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
So if we worry less, and I know that happens. I always laugh because we say we can tap on the fact that I'm worried about what I'm saying because that's a feeling too.
That's funny. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And then the third question was, how long typically should someone tap, and how many sessions does it tend to take before you really, like, for me, I think I'm very in tune with my body. This is the work that I do. So it's quick for me to access. It's in my stomach. It feels like this. It's got this shape. I can go into that easily. But maybe for someone who's never done this before, how long does it usually take, or how can they drop in more to the feeling experience?
All of that is allowing yourself to learn. And I think that there's a lot of really good resources out there. I think that there is a time to work with a coach depending on what you have in your background.
Yeah.
And I tell people that.
Yeah.
It's a very self-soothing. There's a lot of anxiety things, a lot of things that you can do just like this so I can get out of immediate stress. But it's surprising how much it opens up because it's getting everything in the body to start moving, which means other memories may come up.
Yeah.
Always make the disclaimer to people that while it's easy to use, the truth is that I don't care if I'm a really good surgeon, I am not going to do surgery on myself. And so I have to know if you know that there's something in your background that is pretty big and that you probably shouldn't open that can of worms by yourself. There are great people out there who can really be with you.
Yeah.
It's not about, could I figure it out in skill? Sometimes it's just you really need to have somebody there to guide you, to be with you as you're opening some of those things up. So there's a deeper way to go. And then there's, being able to use it for, I've got a meeting coming up and I need to speak. I'm anxious about something happen, pain in the body, a diagnosis that was given. Some of these things are in the moment anxieties that, or, worries and fears that the tapping can help right there and then.
Yeah.
So there is a learning curve, but it's worth it because it becomes a tool that you'll always have available for you.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you mentioned that, working with a coach is really vital, especially in the beginning, because, we as a society tend to be very disconnected from our bodies. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the work that I do, it shows up in an eating disorder or mental health or some other way. And so for the first time to be really dropping into your body, it's important to do it with someone who can contain your experience and is prepared for whatever might come up and can help you navigate. I know a lot of people viewing might be perfectionists and they don't want help and they want to do it themselves. And so I think that's really important that you mentioned, have someone guide you through this. And I know a lot of people, also have been like, oh, I tried it and it didn't work. Most likely you didn't do it right.
That's like going to the gym one time.
Yeah. Didn't work. Yeah.
I did that. I didn't see the work. I didn't see it, the results. And again, intellectually, I think people understand that. But we really are talking about the stuff that's contained on the subconscious level. It's one, it's automated. We have habits of feelings, habits of thinking, and so we're not even aware of it. But two, to make changes in the system. I mean, really, I mean, if we could figure out how people hack into computers and had the same safety mechanisms that our brains have about changing, we'd be okay.
Yeah.
Because we also will come up against a pushback from change. And that's okay. If you know that, that's what you're expecting, then you know how to keep moving through it. But it can be a surprise to some people. And
Yeah.
that's where immediately go, never mind.
Yeah. What do you notice that your clients experience when they start going through these protocols and tapping on their self-worth specifically? What tends to become possible for them?
Oh, possibilities is, that is what excites me. One of the things I say is that I usually, as an example, is that, I start out with a 4-month program. The reason is because I know developmentally,
Mm-hmm.
the process of being able to, first I have to see myself and what is that? I'm becoming aware of what I'm feeling, and I have to become aware of what does it mean when, what is that feeling? So all of this is a learning place. And
Yeah.
by find it about 4 months, what I see people doing is getting there faster. You talk about, because, how long does it take? And I go, well, once you see something, now you know what you're looking for. And now you catch it faster each time. You're there for it, and you're making the changes quicker. But the other side of that is really starting to hone what feelings you want to have and starting to get those linked up neurologically so we can pull those feelings more often. And for me, I find that that's a part of the tapping that often, that a lot of practitioners kind of leave behind. It's like, okay, well, we've got symptom relief.
Ah,
Well, research shows that symptom relief is not the same as happiness.
yeah.
It's a symptom relief.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to
Absolutely.
me, you only went halfway. All this work to just go symptom relief.
Yeah.
What we want is happiness and contentment and satisfaction and joy and sense of gratitude. Those are additional feelings. And that's taking it, that extra yard forward,
Yeah.
bringing that in to the body.
Yeah. I love that. This might be a ridiculous question because there's probably a million different answers, but where do you tend to begin with someone that comes to you and just really, is in poor health? Their relationships are suffering. They're dissatisfied with their job. And they just have this kind of overall sense of like, my life sucks. It's not great. I'm things are never going to change. This is who I am. I'm doomed.
Yeah.
Like,
I love the fact that you gave us a little picture of that, because I think to myself, now if I went with feeling and I went, all of those are different stories,
mm-hmm.
right? But the feeling is steady.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's, wow, this is the feeling I spend more time in. This feeling, which means my body knows it. It knows how to run this feeling. It does it, practically 24/7, maybe interspersed moments of joy or gratitude or yay, my team won or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
But we become the feeling that we're in constantly. So that's why the focus on is when you feel differently, you'll think differently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I
Which is
love
a
that.
little different than change your thoughts and it'll change your body.
Yeah.
I think that when we feel differently, we think differently. So it's really about people realize I want to break up how I'm feeling right now. However I'm feeling, if it's not joy and satisfaction and I'm feeling valued, then I want to change that. And so that's where I'm going to tap, not try to think differently. We've all done that to death. I think I should think a better thought. Body's going, it doesn't care. I don't care
Yeah.
what you're trying to impose on me. The
Yeah.
tapping helps move the body first, give it the space you were talking about. And then I have room to think, how do I want to think differently? What would I focus on differently? And so for me, it's still body first,
Mm-hmm.
even from the beginning.
I agree. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And for someone who that's a foreign concept, they don't think that they can shift their way of being, their way of feeling. How do you just go right into it and just say, like, experience it? Or is there a way to, like, does someone have to really believe that this is going to work in order for it
Well,
to work?
think about it this way. It's like anything. Are you going to really show up at that door to change anything if you really don't think it's going to work? Okay, so what do I know is that if somebody's called up, it's because on some level they want to have hope. They want to believe that it could. Okay, I have had people who've been like, absolutely no, this is going to be more evidence that it doesn't work. But I like to, step on those toes right away.
Yeah.
Because interestingly enough, if you take the feeling it will never work and do some tapping on that,
Beautiful.
what you get is that space. And in that space, I might have an opportunity to feel like, possibility. What's that feel like to have just more space? Feels like possibility. Feels like maybe.
Love
Feels
it.
like hope.
Yeah.
And then that's their work, is to keep opening that to see and then acknowledge when change happens.
Yeah.
So, it pieces all together, and each piece adds to it that help
Yeah.
keep you moving forward.
That seems to be the theme of, this series so far has been, it's an evolutionary process, and you're not going to go from feeling worthless to feeling 100% confident and worthy in one practice of anything, but it's really creating those little openings and building on them and showing up for yourself on a regular basis, making this a practice and a ritual almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
How often do you recommend for people to put EFT into practice?
Well, it depends on how quickly you would like to make some changes in your life.
Right now.
Then I would say daily, at least. Okay.
Great.
So that's part of, I think that's one of the differences about, and it's not being self-promoting, but it's part of when you say, maybe I need some guidelines, what are some practices? What would they look like? What would I do?
Mm-hmm.
So because when I'm working with people, it's in a very forward, what do you want? Okay. And even if what they want is not so much a business or anything, but maybe what they want is more happiness.
Mm-hmm.
That's reasonable. They want more health. They want more freedom. They want peace of mind. We still work on it because we're working together, is that we're still making it a goal. And so what are the practices I would be doing, or checking how I'm feeling, tapping when I'm noticing that I'm in anything but a better feeling place, and also working on the other side, which is, what are the feelings I want to feel? We have to link up those neurons. I mean, if you think of it just simply biologically,
Yeah.
or chemically, we've been running those other patterns so intensely for so many years.
Yeah.
And now we're going to try and do something different. We got to hook up those neurons.
Yes.
That is
Definitely.
a very intentional, practice and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But that's when people are going, yeah, I really want to make these changes. And I'd like, in a year's time, I want to be saying I'm living a completely different life.
Yeah.
And I'm always confident that they can say that.
I love that. I agree. I've seen this practice work in my own life, and, several people around me. Just, that's how I run my whole, practice, and my philosophy is connecting into the body. And body first. The subconscious is running the show. So you want to be aware of what's going on. Where do I need to make little tweaks? So I love this very much.
Yeah. And I appreciate so much, when it's people like you who allow me to, to show and expose it, to be able to share it with people, and the potentiality of it.
Yeah.
So I very much appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. No, thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom around this. I know that a lot of people are curious about, like, what is EFT, but they don't really know. So this was a really, like, easily digestible kind of intro of this is what it is. It's not anything to be overwhelmed about. It's very accessible. And I know you had something that you wanted to offer the audience too, if you want to just share a little bit about that.
Absolutely. It's a audio tapping, so you'll get something to tap along with. It will be me
Awesome.
having you tap through, and a workbook, which will teach you a little bit more of the tapping, where the points are and whatnot. So it's both an experience to learn and to have the experience of doing some tapping and whatnot. And that's it's there for people to get some familiarity with the tapping and then have the experience.
Awesome. And where can people find you? Social media, website?
I'm Tap Into Action on Facebook, and then website, it's tapintoaction.com.
Perfect.
I've been doing a radio show for about going on 4 years now, and I keep all of my shows on the blog.
Oh, awesome.
All nice little short little radio shows, maybe 20 minutes, but they all have tapping in them. So somebody could easily listen to any one of those, do the tapping along with me, and that's a nice way. It's a nice way to kind of get a feel for it, what it sounds like, and how you might use words, as you just have the experience, listen to the words that are used. And then I find that helps build people's confidence as well.
Yeah, if they want to go into more heavier or more serious kinds of things to work through.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Different
Awesome.
things.
And then you had something else coming up, is that right?
I was going to say, and so I'm doing, I do a 6-week teleclass called Smoothing the Road Ahead, moving from the past to the present for the future. And it's again, using this very much, taking somebody through the 6 weeks of, declaring something that they want and then becoming the version of yourself who has it, as we step into that version of ourselves. And that starts April 4th, and that is called, you can find that at smoothingtheroadahead.com.
Awesome. And I'm going to include links to all those and how people can find you when it airs. And do you have any sort of just wrapping up tips or just something, if there's one takeaway for listeners, what would it be?
I think that I really believe in the concept of feeling I matter. Just contemplate it, write it on a sticky note. It is a guiding light. It helps. There's something about that I feel almost helps move some of the internal programs, because it's new. This concept of what does that mean to say I matter? And it's simple. It feels or it sounds so simple, but I think it's just it's a feeling we're all wanting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we're searching for it in other ways, and being included, or with distance, with phones and everything else. I think that we kind of lost that, and so it's a way of kind of self-nurturing.
Love it.
By just even contemplating the idea of I matter.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for your time, for your generosity, for just giving so much information about how people can really help connect to themselves and realize that they do matter. It's such important work, and I really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I'm Ilana Navarro. I always forget to mention my name in the beginning. Thank you for tuning into the Sacred Self-Worth series, and stay tuned for more.